This is the wildest splatter comedy I've seen in well over a year. It's just fucking insane. It is so much fun. It runs almost 2 hours. You're going to wish it ran 6. I'm not kidding. Give it up right now for the man behind the madness, writer-director, Kerry Pryor!
Wow, welcome to Montreal. What a great audience. Keep it up, don't fall asleep. I guess we finished shooting this movie about 2 years ago and spent probably a year and a half doing post on it. And so I usually don't talk much about the movie before the screening because I figure what the hell you're here. So I don't want to spoil anything. But I will say that it's a movie about friendship, and it's dedicated to 5 friends of mine who inspired the story. So hope you all like it, and talk to you after the show.
Kerry Pryor. Before we go into things, just curious, the 5 dedications you mentioned at the beginning of the film as well, was dedicated to these people. Do you want to maybe explain to the audience who they were?
Those are 5 friends of mine who all died, and we went to their funerals, so a lot of the opening stuff in the funerals, and just, I guess, the whole idea of, what if you lost a friend, what would you do to try and keep them around if they could come back? That was inspired by those guys. But there was a lot, going to funerals like that, there's a lot of irony, the whole process of grieving, and then sort of the practicality of having to hire people and get through. It's an industry like anything else, so people have to get paid for what they do, and I don't know, it's just a weird irony there for me.
Do you have military experience yourself?
I don't know.
She mentioned the audience also, Kerry, before making this film, for many, many years, as a special effects artist, did a pile of amazing films. Fantasia Int among them.
Yeah.
2, 3, and...
Did you do wrestling? Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, Bubba Hotep, right. I missed that.
Nice.
So cool. All right. This is maybe some thematic questions. For one, this is my second time watching it tonight, and I really love this film. The only thing that made me a little bit uncomfortable, we were talking about it on the side, was the way, ethnic representation, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah.
The fact that pretty much all the minority characters are coming from some kind of shady background or another. Even the one guy getting robbed says that his ATM card was a stolen card, which might have been, his way to not get robbed.
Right.
But, it feels like it's a satire on race relations more than anything else, clearly, but I'd like you to comment on that if you're comfortable.
Well, I would suggest that maybe everybody in the movie has a shady background.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
But it was also, Los Angeles was sort of a character in the movie. It specifically was taking place in Los Angeles. And so, it's hard to do a movie about crime or crime fighting without, I say a movie, it's hard to get into a discussion about crime or crime fighting in Los Angeles without race coming into it.
Sure.
And so, the minute somebody gets arrested, the LAPD has just a whole resume of ugly, racist, behavior. And I kind of felt like when you've got 2 white guys going around feeding on the brown people, that brings up some discussion.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to sidestep that. I didn't want to avoid it. Plus, some of those characters are based on experiences that I actually had.
Really?
So,
could you go into one?
Well, like the gangbanger, the guy who comes up to him in the parking lot there.
Yeah.
That happened to me and my roommate. It was during the Los Angeles riots.
Oh man.
And my roommate and I thought it'd be a good idea to go down to South Central and take pictures. And it was a good idea. So we got mugged. The guy came up to us with his hand in a bag, and it was like that exact scenario. It was lifted straight out of reality. But he had a bottle of tequila, not a gun. So I don't know where the racist part of that comes in. Is it more racist to remove the bottle of tequila and replace it with a gun, or the other thing?
That's not racist at all.
More racist.
Conformity.
But yeah, there's definitely, I would say, what's interesting is I almost think that Los Angeles is is less a racist city than it is fearful of being racist. Like,
Yeah,
everybody's so touchy about racism there. And I don't know, it just wasn't a subject that I wanted to avoid.
Cool.
And plus, you know, the idea of the multiracial gang, which just simply doesn't exist. That's not the case. You know, there aren't white gangs, not in LA. And so if I was making this real and trying to create characters who were dealing in a real environment with this ridiculous situation, the more real I could make it, the better. So.
Okay. The film has this great early 80s, almost Frank Henwater vibe in terms of like the degeneracy of it and I mean the humor of it. It's a very, very funny, over-the-top, ironic film. Do you want to talk about where it comes from, the satire side of it, and what your films from the early 80s might have been that really moved you?
Well, I mean, you know, I like all the classic horror stuff, I guess. You know, The Shining, and I'm a big Kubrick fan, and I don't know if that doesn't really count, does it? That's not really what you're talking about.
It can count. Hey, if it's what got you there, it's what got you there.
I would almost say there were, you know, like, maybe there was more of a Koska F thing that I was going for, you know, with, especially with Bart, or you know, Dostoevsky, Notes from Underground. Like, that was the character that I wanted for Bart. I wanted him to be that angry, bitter, almost funny, you know, so angry that he's funny.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, hopefully it got to that place, I don't know.
All right. We'll open up some questions from the audience.
Well, you know, first and foremost, it was about the story and the characters. But in setting up this situation, I felt like it was important to try and take it to its ultimate extreme, you know, in every sense, in terms of the characters and in terms of the experience of, you know, what are all the different permutations of, if you could come back to life, what are all the different things that would, you know, where would that go ultimately? And ultimately, people would find out about it, and ultimately, if you know, you'd get arrested, and it would go on up the chain, and hey, we've got this guy who's come back to life, and he was a veteran, and eventually they would try and exploit that. You know, I mean, I know there have been discussions in boardrooms about how can we use SARS, you know, in warfare. How do we use, whatever it is. I mean, those discussions happen.
Just biowarfare.
Yeah, just biowarfare. I mean, anything that comes along, you know that there's at some point somebody says, you know, we really need to look at this. How can we use this?
That's terrible.
You know, and so I just feel that would happen. And that idea in of itself